gave it to them, saying, Drink ye all of it, for this is my blood of the New Testament, which is shed for many for the remissions of sins. But I say unto you, I will not drink henceforth of this fruit of the vine until that day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom. Father, I thank you, Father, for the opportunity you've given me to stand before these people, share your word. Pray, Father, that it will be not just something that you inspired a few days ago by your Holy Spirit, but that it would be a word that you inspired in the midst of preaching and in the midst of hearing. That the work of your Holy Spirit will go long beyond the experience that I had with you when I sat down and studied this word. I pray, Father, that what takes place today, that we will honor your name. That we will do all in a way that would bring glory and honor in your name. That we would approach the time of the Lord's Supper with a little bit of fear and trembling, but also recognizing that it is you that are inviting us, welcoming us. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Now, I've looked back over my Lord's Supper sermons, and it's pretty obvious that I usually talk about, you better get your life right. You better get it straight. You better take care of that. Don't come up here. Don't even think about taking the Lord's Supper unless your heart is right, unless you're right. If there's something the Lord is dealing with you in your life, you need to take care of it. Well, this message is a little bit different than that. And as I began, in fact, the Lord's Supper, the full title is The Lord's Supper equals Communion. Now, we as Baptists have problems with some of the other words that other denominations and other Christian groups use. For example, we don't call it the Eucharist. Now, some of you are scratching your head. I don't have a clue what the Eucharist is. Well, let me tell you what the word Eucharist means. Eucharist is two Greek words put together. The EU means well, or very good, well. Charis means worthy of praise or grateful. So when you put those two Greek words together, well or good, worthy of praise or grateful, it means this is really worthy, very well worthy of praise of God. And Eucharist is a good word. But we revolt against it because Baptists are very reactionary. And if somebody else uses a word to describe something, we usually, if it's not what we like, we hear other kinds of things. But Eucharist is a good word. Because the work of the Lord is very well, very good, very worthy of praise and thanks. Would you not agree? The other word is communion. And so when I put Lord's Supper equals communion, those that are from Baptists, who have always been taught, that's a bad word, we think, something's gotten into Don Pierson. Now we're going to start doing all of the stuff that other people do. No, communion means communion. The word comes from the word koinonia, which is a Greek word, which is 1 John, the 1 John. I'm studying 1 John right now. 1 John is filled with the word koinonia. And koinonia means to have communion with God and one another. And the Lord's Supper was an invitation for communion with Jesus and with one another. And so the Lord's Supper really is an invitation to communion, to fellowship. That's the word that the King James uses over in 1 John for the word koinonia. Fellowship. And so if you don't like the word communion, then just put the Lord's Supper equals fellowship. The Lord's Supper equals fellowship. And so, I want to just take you through briefly on this. I don't know why I ever use that word briefly. But I want to talk to you a little bit about the Lord's Supper and its history. Well, the Lord's Supper, basically, for you and I, brings together two histories. So when we take the Lord's Supper, we're experiencing two histories. One history was for all Jews. That's the Passover. The other history is for, they're both J's, if you're having a hard time remembering it. J for Jews, all Jews. The other one is all Jesus. All those And those two traditions come together on this Thursday night, or Maundy Thursday in church history. That's what the word is used to describe this night. They come together in this scripture. Those two things collide. And the Lord's Supper for all Jesus's is introduced alongside with all Jews. For the Passover was the occasion for this meeting. Now, those of you that don't know what the Passover was, it was the last of the 10 plagues on Egypt. There was those 9 horrendous plagues that were brought upon Pharaoh and Egypt for judgment because they would not let God's people go. They would not let the Jews go. So 9 plagues came, and he still wouldn't let them go. And so Moses is told, you go tell Pharaoh, there's one more. Now, I don't know why he said go one more. We know there's only one more. But he goes to Pharaoh and he says, this is what's going to happen. The death angel is coming. God's going to send an angel of death upon Egypt and all that reside, not only in Egypt, but in all of their lands that Egypt has conquered. And the firstborn child in every household will die. By the way, did you know a firstborn child can be 90 years old? We think it's all about babies. No, it's the firstborn child. That's one of those times where you don't want to be the eldest. There is a benefit being the middle child on that day. Okay? The middle child. Well, Pharaoh, after 9 plagues that he's been announced and have come true, he still won't believe it. But the message is not just to Pharaoh. On this one, the message is also to all Jews. And he says to all Jews, the death angel is coming. You can find salvation tonight. You can find deliverance. You need to find a lamb. A lamb, a male lamb that is spot-free, wrinkle-free, blemish-free, that has no defects on it at all. And you are to take that lamb, and you are to kill that lamb. You are to take a bush, a branch of hyssop, and you are to make 3 marks on your doorpost. You are to put it on your house. You have to stay under that blood. You have to stay in that house. You are to eat all of the lamb. Whether you're hungry or not, you better eat it all. You can't leave any left for tomorrow. You will devour all of the lamb. You will eat him with bitter herbs. In other words, it ain't going to taste as good as you might want it to. And ladies, because this is happening so quick, you can't use that bread that you've been working on over there that you got your yeast in. You got to make bread without yeast. Unleavened bread. It's not going to rise. It's going to be flat. It's going to look like a tortilla. And you're going to eat this tonight. And you're going to eat it with haste. Oh, and by the way, in between getting all this ready, you got to pack. You got to pack everything. Because when daylight comes in the morning, you're leaving here whether you want to or not. And there was a warning. Don't think just because you're a Jew that you can go outside of this house tonight. You better stay under that blood. You better stay inside. Well, you know what happens. The death angel comes. Screams explode all of Egypt and its empire. But in the house of those who had faith and believed, but killed that lamb, put its blood on its door and stayed inside, salvation came. Deliverance came. Passover was to be celebrated every year, and there was a period where they missed it and lost it. But it was to be celebrated every year, just like they had in the beginning. Well, many years since that death angel passed over, Jesus calls his disciples together in an upper room, locked away in an upper room, and they celebrate Passover. And all of a sudden, Jesus brings into a new history. He takes their old history, the Passover. He brings into it the Lord's Supper. And he changes or adds to, more than adds to than changes, the meaning of the Passover. And it becomes for, not just for all Jews, but all those who are Jesus. So much so that you and I, who are not Jews, are invited in to take this. This new Lord's Supper has no sacrifice except for one. It's not repeated each time. I don't have to go kill a lamb. Or actually, the Thrashers and Jimmy and Debbie don't have to go kill a lamb to get the Lord's Supper ready. Because we have the lamb. We don't have to go put any blood on this building. The blood's already there. It's already on the cross.
Amen.
But it is just the same as a message of hope. For you and I, who are under that blood, we know that the death angel passed by. And we went from death to alive. From an old creature to a new creature. Transformation took place in us. Well, that's to history. But why? Why is it about communion? Why is it about community? Why is it about fellowship? Well, if you look in verse 26, the Lord's Supper is instituted in the midst of community. And as they were eating, Jesus took bread and blessed it and brake it and gave it to the disciples and said, "Take, eat, this is my body." He didn't run out to the street passing it out. This is a very closed upper room. He invited those who had been followers of his. Now, this is true. Judas is in there. The truth, there's always a Judas in the midst. Every Lord's Supper probably has one that's going to eventually trade and betray him. But there's a community. It's a small group that was invited. We've been invited. But why? Well, I'm going to give you some insights that I have found over the last couple of weeks. Some come from, now Hebrews 10, 24 and 25. If you guys don't know that verse yet, it is not my fault. Because I go to that verse way, way too often. You have heard me read this verse or quote from this verse more times than probably 100 times. But in this verse, there are 3 reasons stated why we need community. If you listen to the verse, starts in verse 24, "And let us consider one another to provoke or spur unto love and to good work, not forsaking the gathering of ourselves together, as the manner of some is, but exhorting or encouraging one another, and so much the more as you see the day approaching." 3 powerful reasons why we need community from this verse. 1, because I need someone to stand behind me. That's verse 24. The word is to provoke or to spur. Now, Hunter, I always think of Hunter whenever I talk about that, because you remember Hunter was just a little boy back then. And it was Josh Price, and I can't remember that. I put a big old pack of rocks on one of them, and I had the other ones. One was standing next to them, or actually it was one on each side, and then there was somebody back in the back with just poking them in the back and saying, going. That's what the word spur means. It means to take a spear and just jam it. You just keep on moving. Don't stop. You can't stop. You just keep on moving. Community, for community, true community, I need somebody that's going to be behind me, provoking me or spur me to keep on going. Do not stand still. Now, if I don't want somebody doing that, and I get irritated, then guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to say, you know what, I'm tired of that bunch watching. I'm not going anymore. I'm going to forsake the gathering myself together with you. But the truth is, you need somebody behind you. It's not a nagging. Oh, no, it's much worse than nagging. This is sharp. There's a spear. You feel the point. And they're constantly saying, just keep on moving. I need somebody behind me for community. But I need somebody beside me. That's why I am to gather together. I need somebody beside me. I need somebody, as in Galatians says, that's standing beside me with this heavy load of rocks, who reaches their hand behind me, one on each side, looking like they're hugging me, but what they're really doing is holding up that rock. They're taking off some of that pressure of that burden. They're on each side with their hands underneath my arms and holding the bag. It looks like they're holding me up, but what they're really doing is relieving the burden. I need for community, true community, I need somebody who is jabbing me in the backside saying, you just keep on going. And I need somebody on the sides of me saying, hey, we got this. We got this. Walking together, serving together, loving together, right there beside me. But I need someone who's in front. I need someone who has gone before me. That's the word encouraging or exhorting. This person's already there. You can only encourage if you know that they can make it. And encourage is one who's kind of running in front saying, come on, come on, you can do this, you can do this. They're not on your side, they're not behind you, they're in front of you. They've been before you. Now we have Jesus in all of these. But the truth, this passage is not about Jesus. This passage is about community. This passage is about fellowship. This is what I need from you. I need community because I need someone behind me. I need someone beside me. I need someone that's gone before me. Well, those are three from there. If you go over to verse 29 of Matthew, you find another reason why community is important. But I say unto you, I will not drink henceforth of this fruit of the vine until that day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom. You see, this Lord's Supper reminds me of a heavenly communion or a heavenly fellowship or a heavenly koinonia, a unity that I will have with my Father. You see, even in the beginning, he says, look, I'm not going to do this again with you until we do it there. It's Revelation chapter 19, that great marriage feast that you and I will enjoy. And every time I take the Lord's Supper, I'm not just remembering of what he has done for me, but I'm remembering what is awaiting me. Amen. And you understand that that feast is with us. He's not just sitting there on the throne on a little pull-out tray just by himself. That happens this way Trish serves me. No, that's the way I said no. It's not like that. There's a fifth one. One that caught my attention probably more than the others. In Ephesians chapter 4, verses 1 through 3, we read these passages. I, therefore, the prisoner of the Lord, beseech you that you walk worthy of the vocation wherewith you are called, with all lowliness and meekness, with long suffering, forbearing one another in love, endeavoring to keep the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace. For there is only one body and one Spirit, even as you are called in one hope of your calling. If you allow me to take that verse and put it together with Romans chapter 12, verse 18. If it be possible, as much as lieth in you, live peaceably with all men. In different translations has the Ephesian passage differently. Some translation says to make every effort. To make every effort or endeavor. Make every effort, endeavor to live in unity with one another. Let me tell you what the Greek literally is translated as. Strive like a warrior. Strive like a warrior to maintain peace and community. Unity. Strive like a warrior. Not like a soldier. A warrior. I'm going to tell you right now. Renee Caldwell is probably the only one in our midst that I've ever seen strive like a warrior for fellowship. Most of us don't even act like soldiers. If something happens to us, somebody does something, we will keep track of it forever. And we will literally stop. We all of a sudden no longer think we need someone in front of us or beside us, nor behind us. Oh, Jesus is enough for us. By the way, that sounds really good, but that is not biblical. No, the truth is, most of us, including us, means me too. You understand that? Most of us don't strive like a warrior for anything, much less for peace and unity among us. And you know why? You know why? The only way you can strive like a warrior for unity is only when it is no longer about you. Warriors give their life, sacrifice, and suffer greatly for others. But if you're not a warrior, then you'll run your tape. You know what I mean by tape? Some of you do. Your story, what so-and-so did, over and over again, because, you see, it's all about you. When it comes to the Lord's Supper, though it is an incredible invitation to community and fellowship, it is very, very clear. This is not all about you. And he makes it very clear, it's not all just about him. It's a community. I'm going to wrap up. If you don't mind me, I'll read my last two of the 5 book readings. Communion is not uniformity. Uniformity means to act the same. Communion is not all of us acting the same. It's not unanimity. I just said that wrong, and I practiced that. I listened to that on my Google over and over again, and I still can't say it right. It's not unanimity to think the same. It's not that. It is true and pure unity. And you know what unity means? To look the same. Now here's the thing. I'm not called to look like you. And you are not called to look like me. We are all called to look like Jesus. Amen. And our community holds together not by what we do, but who we are in him. I am called to true unity. There is false unity, where everybody acts the same and thinks the same. And there is false unity where we all try to look like somebody else in the church. The true unity, the way God calls us to, the true koinonia, is when we all are striving to look like Jesus. You know, That's why the altar gets filled up with confession all the time, right? Why? We haven't done real good that week. Or maybe even that day, right? We just messed up. But we're ready to move in that direction of true unity. Looking the same, all looking like Jesus. So here's the ending mark. To partake of the Lord's Supper, I must be part of the fellowship of Christ, not just a church member. I must be a part of the true fellowship of Christ and not a church member. I don't care. If you notice, I don't ask many times. I usually don't care. Well, he didn't say, are they members now? Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, you get saved and baptized, you become a member of God's people. All right? So you don't hear me making votes. And some of you that have come from a tradition where you want that, you might not get over it. It's not going to happen with me here. You know why? Another reason? Because I don't want you thinking, just because you're a member of this church, that God has to let you in. Because that's not true. I must be part of the fellowship of Christ, not just of a church. And second, I need to be walking in fellowship with Him and His people. 1 John is all about koinonia, community, fellowship. And you know what else is all about 1 John? It's filled with the one another commandments. It's not just what I do with Him, it's what I do with you. And what I do with you reveals whether what I say I am with Him is real. The Lord's Supper equals communion. You may not like the word, but it equals true fellowship. That's what it's all about. We have been grafted in, brought back, made part of a family. We are blessed. Deacons, come. Now I recognize that the Lord may be speaking to you just like in any normal service. Before you take the Lord's Supper, you do what you need to do, right? You need to spend some time alone with the Lord, you take care of it. If you need some of us to pray for you, you come. We'll pray for you.